Imagine a love story captivating thousands online, a vibrant connection shared through joyful dance videos and glimpses into everyday adventures. On platforms like TikTok and YouTube, they built a community around their infectious energy and genuine affection for one another. But what happens when that bright light is suddenly extinguished, shattered by an act of violence so seemingly insignificant, so utterly pointless, that it leaves a community reeling in disbelief? In Huntsville, Alabama, a popular social media couple's love story took a dark and irreversible turn, proving that even the most joyful online personas can be touched by real-world tragedy. Welcome to Crime Stories Network. I thank you, my viewers, for your support as we keep bringing true crime stories. Don't forget to like, subscribe and hit bell notification icon for future uploads. In the vibrant world of social media, some connections shine brighter than others. For thousands of followers on TikTok and YouTube, the bond between Sequoiya Lamar and Dasia Morris was one of those radiant lights. 20-year-old Sequoiya, often called Sh0t by those close to her, was a multi-talented force of nature. Her passion poured out through her captivating dance videos, each move precise and full of energy. Dancing wasn't just a hobby, it was a true creative outlet, a way for her to express herself and connect with others. But Sequoiya's talents didn't stop there. She possessed a remarkable skill for hair braiding, creating intricate and beautiful designs, often even on her own hair. Beyond her artistic flair, Sequoiya was also blossoming as a social media influencer, sharing glimpses into her daily life through vlogs that offered a peek into her world. Whether she was getting her nails done, showcasing her latest hairstyle, or simply sharing a moment of her day, her genuine personality shone through, drawing people in. And then there was her love for cooking. Sequoiya frequently took to social media to share her culinary adventures, from comforting soul food to her own innovative creations, always with a bright smile and an infectious enthusiasm. Alongside Sequoiya was her girlfriend, Dasia Morris, who was 24 years old. Affectionately known as D or Mo by those who loved her, Dasia was born on March 20, 1999. She had her own life and experiences, having attended J.O. Johnson High School and worked at Aeropostale. But it was alongside Sequoiya that Dasia truly seemed to shine in the online sphere. Together, Sequoiya and Dasia were a dynamic duo. Their relationship was a joyful tapestry woven with laughter, shared dreams, and an undeniable, unbreakable bond. They were the kind of couple that inspired those around them, navigating the everyday ups and downs of life with a resilience and love that was evident to anyone who watched them. Their connection wasn't just for the cameras, it felt real, authentic, and deeply rooted. Their YouTube channel offered a more personal glimpse into their lives. They answered fan questions with humor and honesty, giving advice and sharing behind-the-scenes moments from their daily routines. They created a strong and supportive online community, making their viewers feel like they were part of their journey. Their natural chemistry and playful banter were infectious, making them incredibly relatable and endearing to their growing fan base. To their followers, they were more than just online personalities, they were a symbol of love, joy, and living life authentically. But beneath this seemingly happy surface, a storm was quietly gathering, one that would ultimately shatter this vibrant world in the most devastating way. Living in the same apartment complex on Bonnell Drive in Huntsville was a 23-year-old man named Tye Stevens. To Sequoiya and Dasia, he was just a neighbor, someone they likely passed in the hallways or saw around the building. Little did they know, a seemingly insignificant issue involving Tye would soon cast a dark shadow over their bright lives. The catalyst for the unimaginable tragedy that unfolded on August 29, 2023, was something as ordinary as car tires. Yes, you heard that right. Witnesses and later investigators pieced together that Sequoiya, Dasia, and Tye had been embroiled in a dispute reportedly over something as minor as car tires. Think about that for a moment. Tires. Something so commonplace, so easily resolved in most situations, became the flashpoint for extreme violence. But this wasn't just a one-time disagreement. It appears the tension between the couple and their neighbor had been building for some time. What could have been the nature of this ongoing disagreement? What kind of neighborly friction could escalate to the point of no return? Tuesday, August 29, 2023, began like any other day in Huntsville. The summer heat likely hung in the air. Little did Sequoiya and Dasia know that this day would be their last. The seemingly trivial argument over tires was about to reach a boiling point, transforming their ordinary Tuesday into a scene of unimaginable horror. What could have been said, what lines could have been crossed, that would lead to such a devastating outcome? The answer to that question lies within the events of that fateful morning. The morning likely started with the usual routines of an apartment complex. People heading to work, children getting ready for school, the everyday sounds of life. But at approximately 10:40 a.m., that normalcy was shattered by a sound that cuts through any sense of peace, the sharp crack of gunfire. Multiple gunshots ripped through the air at the apartment complex located on Bonnell Drive. Imagine the immediate fear and confusion that must have gripped the residents. What was happening? Who was in danger? As the echoes of the gunshots faded, the first calls flooded into 911. Frantic voices reported the terrifying sounds, painting a picture of chaos and panic. It wouldn't take long for officers from the Huntsville Police Department to arrive at the scene. And what they discovered was a tragedy that would send shockwaves through the community and far beyond. Near their apartment, lying still and lifeless, were the bodies of Sequoiya Lamar and Dasia Morris. Their vibrant lives, so full of promise and shared with the world online, had been violently extinguished. The initial investigation quickly revealed the horrific extent of the attack. According to the coroner's report, both young women had been shot multiple times. In total, a staggering 13 rounds were fired between them. 13 shots. Think about the sheer violence and intent behind that number. This wasn't a single, impulsive act. This suggests a level of rage and determination that is truly disturbing. What could have possibly transpired during that argument over tires to lead to such a brutal and devastating outcome? What thoughts might have been racing through Sequoiya and Dasia's minds in those final moments? Within mere hours of the horrific discovery, the investigation began to zero in on a prime suspect, their neighbor, 23-year-old Tye Stevens. Based on witness accounts and initial evidence gathered at the scene, Huntsville police swiftly obtained 2 capital murder warrants for his arrest. Capital murder, a charge that, in Alabama, carries the weight of the most severe penalties. A "be on the lookout" alert was immediately issued to law enforcement agencies across the region. The message was clear: Tye Stevens was wanted for the brutal murders of Sequoiya Lamar and Dasia Morris, and he was considered armed and dangerous. The urgency was high. A killer was on the loose, and the safety of the community was at risk. But Tye Stevens had already vanished. He didn't linger in the area. Investigators believed he had likely fled the state, possibly heading towards Anniston, Alabama, or even as far as Columbia, South Carolina. This launched a multi-jurisdictional manhunt, with local police quickly enlisting the help of federal authorities. The U.S. Marshal Service Gulf Coast Regional Fugitive Task Force, known for their expertise in tracking down and apprehending dangerous fugitives, took over the lead in the search. For a full week, authorities worked tirelessly, following every lead, tracking his possible movements across state lines. His vehicle, a silver car with an unknown license plate tag, became a key focus of the search. The tension in Huntsville remained high as the days passed without an arrest. Where was he hiding? Was he receiving help? The uncertainty hung heavy in the air. Then, exactly 1 week after the murders, on Wednesday, September 6, 2023, a break in the case. Intelligence led the U.S. Marshals to Anniston, Alabama. There, they located Tye Stevens and, in a moment that brought a collective sigh of relief to investigators and the victims' families, he was taken into custody without incident. With Stevens in custody, the process of bringing him to justice began. He was swiftly transported back to Madison County, Alabama, where he was booked into the Madison County Jail. The charges were as serious as they come, 2 counts of capital murder. He was held without bond, a clear indication of the gravity of the accusations against him. The first step in the legal journey had been taken, but the road to a final verdict was still long and uncertain. What evidence did the police have against Stevens that allowed them to secure these capital murder charges so quickly? And what would his defense be against such serious accusations? As expected, the wheels of justice began to turn. On November 1, 2023, the case against Tye Stevens was formally presented to a grand jury. After reviewing the evidence, the grand jury returned an indictment, formally charging Stevens with 2 counts of capital murder. This moved the case closer to a trial that held the potential for the most severe punishments under Alabama law. Throughout the pre-trial phase, Stevens' legal team made attempts to secure his release on bond. However, their efforts were repeatedly denied by the judge. The court, it seemed, viewed the evidence and the severity of the charges as significant enough to keep him in custody without bond until his trial. This decision undoubtedly brought some measure of reassurance to the families of Sequoiya and Dasia, knowing that the man accused of taking their loved ones remained behind bars. The trial was eventually scheduled for August of the following year. The courtroom would become the battleground where the prosecution would present their case, aiming to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Tye Stevens was responsible for the deaths of Sequoiya and Dasia. The stakes were incredibly high. For a capital murder conviction in Alabama, the potential penalties included life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, or even the death penalty. The weight of this possibility hung heavy over the entire case. While the legal process moved forward, the families of Sequoiya and Dasia were grappling with unimaginable grief. Sequoiya's mother, Sh0t, bravely spoke out about the unbearable pain of losing her daughter, describing her as a bright and caring young woman with so much life ahead of her. Her emotional pleas for justice echoed the sentiments of everyone who knew and loved Sequoiya. For Dasia's brother, Dantes, the news of his sister's death arrived in a particularly shocking and traumatic way. He recounted receiving a phone call, but the reality of the news didn't fully register until he saw a Facebook Live video, a horrifying and deeply personal moment captured and shared online, showing the scene where his sister and her girlfriend had been killed. Imagine the added layer of pain and trauma of learning about such a devastating loss in such a public and impersonal manner. The tragedy sent shockwaves through the Huntsville community and beyond. Friends, family, and even those who only knew Sequoiya and Dasia through their online presence expressed their disbelief and profound sadness. The outpouring of grief was immense. A GoFundMe campaign was launched to help Sequoiya's family with the significant funeral expenses, and it garnered support from many touched by their story. The senselessness of the crime, the idea that such vibrant young lives could be extinguished over something as trivial as tires, sparked intense conversations within the community about gun violence, conflict resolution, and the ease with which disputes can escalate to deadly levels. Many also voiced concerns about the fact that Stevens was able to flee the scene so quickly after the shooting. The pain of this loss was palpable, leaving a lasting scar on the hearts of those who knew and loved Sequoiya and Dasia. If you found this video impactful, please like and subscribe to our channel for more true crime stories that shed light on important issues. Share this video to help raise awareness. And let's all commit to creating a safer world.